nighttime hours on your Wednesday. So it's a first alert weather day. We've got another first alert weather day tomorrow. Technically, really our first alert weather day just goes from late this evening through early tomorrow, and then we'll be done with the bad weather. So we'll get a look at your first alert forecast. Here's a view of Francine currently out in the Gulf, and already pushing some rain up into central Mississippi early this morning, and still just churning out there.
Yeah, I thought that a lot more dry air was going to try to work its way in off into the west. It's been trying to eat its way into Francine, so I thought that might weaken it. It has powered through and has not let that dry air come in. I thought it did because it looked a little bit weaker into the satellite views just earlier into this morning. You can see kind of how it just like started fizzling out a little bit. Then I was like, okay, maybe it will stay at that Cat 1 status, maybe drop down a little bit. You never know with these storms. But it powered through, and it's been powering through some high shear, and it has just kind of become its own entity out there, and it's making its way closer to Louisiana now. So something to really, really keep a close eye on.
Yeah, I know along the coast of Louisiana, they're already dealing with some of that storm surge and some flooding. So that's, of course, going to be a major concern all along the Gulf Coast, including the Mississippi coast. Of course, we're not expecting to see that kind of flooding, but we do have some flash flood concerns. And some of you are already seeing even some heavy rain early on this Wednesday. This is a view from our first alert satellite and radar. If you're not seeing the rain yet, it's pretty gloomy out there. We've got just a few light sprinkles in parts of the metro. Doesn't stretch super far, but it's right there along that I-20 and I-55 meeting point. But you go further to the south, you've got heavier rain just west of Brookhaven. Natchez has been getting sprinkled on for hours. It has not really stopped raining there. So you may be feeling a little soggy, a little waterlogged. This is just the start of feeling waterlogged if you are already feeling that way.
Yeah, one of the most recent updates from the National Weather Service here in Jackson, as well as the National Hurricane Center, actually put some areas further to the south along the Mississippi Gulf Coast and even up into areas of Macomb, Tylertown, could see somewhere up to 10 inches of rainfall, which is crazy to say. I'm leaning more towards the 1 to 4 inches along the Mississippi River, and then elsewhere into central Mississippi could get that 4 to 6 inch mark. But 10 inches, whenever I saw them say that, I was like, that's insane. That's crazy that's just going to be falling just from this storm system. We're talking about just Hurricane Francine. They do have hurricane hunters out there right now getting us live data and things like that. So we'll be seeing if they do bump it up to that Cat 2 status. It's just on that edge. We need winds of 96 miles per hour to be categorized as a Category 2 storm. But still, the eye wall starting to gain a little bit more strength, and we're seeing it gain just a little bit more strength before it makes landfall. So it is possible.
Yeah, the water's warm. It's warm in general across the area. So here's what we're looking at. This is the latest track, and you'll notice it's been, the cone of uncertainty has been squished down just a little bit. There's still no, exact route that we can tell you it's going to take, but it is trending back to the west a little bit. So some models were indicating maybe we'd wind up on the western side of the storm. I don't think that's going to be the case, not for everyone at least. So through tonight, you need to stay weather aware and make sure that you finish all your hurricane preparations, your severe weather preparations by this evening, by 5-6 o'clock. That's when you need to be done. You need to be in the house, hunkered down, ready to go.
I'd say some areas even further to the south near Natchez, Macomb, Tylertown, even up in Brookhaven, you should be done with all these preparations by lunchtime today, because you are already going to be seeing some rainfall. You're not going to get out there and do your prep, and then a little bit breezy out there. So you need to be keeping a very close eye on this and be very cautious as you are going forward through the rest of the day. Some areas, it did show that tomorrow morning you're waking up here in the Jackson Metro. Some of you might be seeing winds of 45 miles an hour, and that's true. But areas further to the south, as the storm system does come on shore, you could see winds maybe even up to 60 miles an hour associated with this storm. So every one of you needs to be taking this serious and just taking it hour by hour right now, just to make sure that you do have the most up-to-date information on that.
And we'd rather you be over-prepared than under. So treat it as if it's going to be the most serious possible scenario. We've mentioned a few times that we may see that eastern shift. Do not expect it. So that's why I was a little hesitant to even mention it yesterday. It was a little early. We've seen it a little bit. Someone says, should I leave my mobile home in Scott County? perhaps. It would be a good idea if you live in a mobile home in a structure that can't sustain really strong winds to find somewhere else to be. Call a neighbor, call a friend, see if you can hang out at your church, spend the night there. Or a local shelter.
Shelters
Mhm.
and kind of like safe spaces to get away from the storm. It's mainly two areas south.
Mhm.
I know Pike County and Simpson County down further along the Mississippi Louisiana border and down near the Gulf Coast. They've opened up shelters and things like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's more widespread, mainly because of the impacts that we're expecting from the storm, and with the fact that we do have a high population of people that are in mobile homes across much of central Mississippi.
Mhm.
So if you do, please try to find a sturdy structure, because these winds are going to be they're going to be hefty for a considerable amount of time, not just random gusts up to
Yeah.
40, 50, but they'll be constant at roughly 30 to 35 miles an hour, which can still cause damage across much of the area.
Yeah, especially with all the weak trees that we have out there, dead trees. Certainly possible. So again, assume the worst from this system and make your plans according to that. So that would mean, find a shelter, a safer place if you live in a mobile home or a camper or something like that. So those are things that you do still have time to make preparations for. Right now, we showed you just a little bit of light rain. Some places seeing some moderate downpours, but it's not the worst of the weather yet. It's just breezy out there for now. This is how things are expected to go through the remainder of the day. We're going to see that rain coverage increase through the lunchtime hours. By 5, 6 o'clock, most all of us are seeing some light showers. Now, this is, of course, just a model. That doesn't mean it'll look exactly like this. Take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, you see that in our southern zones, 5, 6 o'clock. Be prepared for the storm to move in.
Yeah, that's really whenever we could be seeing the brunt of the storm, as it is making landfall later tonight. Areas to the south, I'm talking Pike, Franklin, Adams, into Lincoln, even into Lawrence and Jefferson Davis. You're going to be seeing some pretty heavy rain and very strong winds. So if you are south of I-20, you need to be taking this a little bit more serious in areas north, up in like Holmes and Humphrey County, even up into Yazoo, because you'll be still be getting winds around 25 to 45 miles an hour areas north, but areas to the south could see winds up to 60, and that's a big range, big difference between the two. Whenever we're talking about a storm that is still a high-end Cat 1 hurricane. That is going to be bringing us massive impacts. So as the day goes on and into the night, sadly, we're going to be talking about more widespread rainfall and even heavier storms into the overnight hours. So that's something that we'll be really closely watching.
Yeah, and this is an hour-by-hour look at what we expect to see through the nighttime hours. So we're getting a lot of questions, of course, about specific counties. The way that this system looks to set up right now, the way that the storm looks to move to the north, the difference won't be that great from county to county. Even as you go further to the north, you could still see gusts at times up to 50, 60 miles an hour. So just, again, prepare for the worst from it, because it looks like many of us are going to see much of the same as it moves through. It will lose strength as it moves to the north, but that doesn't mean you won't see that really bad weather.
Yeah, I think that you should. We've been saying it all day, and we've been preaching it since yesterday. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best. We've been sitting here talking, hoping that it continues to shift east, but we also have to come to the reality that it probably won't. So that's something that we can sit here and we show you the worst possible probability of the system, just in hopes that you can prepare for that. And I'd rather you be completely prepared for the worst and nothing happen than just be completely caught off guard. And when we're talking about the storm system that has multiple different possibilities of is it going to follow I-55? Is it going to follow I-59? Where is it going to go? Like, that's been the big question mark for us for the past really a couple hours. So there's still a lot of question marks, but I'd rather you all be completely prepared about this storm system than just be caught off guard by it at all.
Yeah, I'm seeing a couple people ask, will it be bad early in the morning? Yes, that's when the worst of the weather is expected, and it depends on where you are. Some of you, as you get into Wilkinson, Emmett, Pike, Walthall counties, you'll see it again as early as 5 or 6 o'clock this evening. Then as we go through the overnight hours, of course, it'll continue to push north. So 11 12 o'clock, it's into the I-20 corridor, the worst of the weather that would be. You see it continue to shift north through the early morning hours. So 2 a.m., 3 a.m., it's into Atala, Leake, Holmes, Humphreys counties, Yazoo counties. And that's the track that it's expected to take. Then you're in it, for an hour or 2 hours before it clears out of your area, or even more than 2 hours before it clears out of your area. So even though we've been saying it's a relatively short-lived event because it's just an overnight event, it's not going to be multiple days of bad weather, but the weather will be bad through the overnight hours, through early tomorrow morning, and then by Thursday afternoon, that's when we expect to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I'm just going through some of the comments about by evening, will it be bad in some parishes and some places? It's really just important that no matter where you are just just have multiple ways of staying updated. And that's really all I'm trying to say. Into the night tonight, it's mainly going to be into the overnight hours. So turn your ringer on when you go to bed. Make sure you have all the alerts ready to go just in case.
Make sure everything's charged before you go to bed, including those extra backup batteries that you might use, just because it won't matter if your ringer's on if your phone is dead.
Yeah, it states that it's going to have to be into the overnight hours. I wish that if we did have to deal with this, it would be more towards the daytime, so at least we could kind of see what was coming. But into the overnight, a lot of people tend to let their guards down, and that usually leads to some issues into the overnight hours. So just please make sure you're being weather aware. Even whenever you are going to bed, have your ringer on, make sure your alerts are turned on, and just please have ways of staying updated. I know that there more than likely are going to be some type of power outages and things like that. So make sure you have if you do have a weather radio, battery powered. If you don't, I'm sure that you can find one at Lowe's or places like that. I'm sure that Walmart might have some too. I don't know the exact places to go get stuff like that, but you probably do. So just make sure you have multiple ways. And I'm not talking about just the TV, your phone, the internet. Radio's a great means of communication. I don't remember, Wilson was telling me that the Mississippi broadcast channel was the only means of communication when Katrina came through all the way back in 2005. The only way that you could get communication back in that time was was the radio after Katrina. So that's a great means of communication into the night tonight and into the day tomorrow, just because we don't know how long the power is going to be out. We don't know if the power is going to be out, and we don't know when. And so just please be prepared if things do go south for some of us. Yeah,
and just knowing the way that power outages usually go in Mississippi, a severe thunderstorm can knock out your power. So this is a large storm. I would expect power outages. If your power doesn't usually go out, maybe don't assume it's going to go out. But if it does usually go out, I would assume it's going to go out and be prepared for that. So this is what the timing's looking like for it getting out of here. Now, I will say, again, this is a model. Take it with a grain of salt. We feel like this is the best version of the model to show you. It has a good starting point. It looks similar to how things look out there right now. But other models have this system moving a little slower. So it has the timing more into early tomorrow morning versus this evening and tonight. So keep that in mind too. If you are at 5, 6 o'clock and not seeing anything happening, it could have slowed down a little bit. And we could just have to shift our timing for you. So be prepared for through the overnight hours. All the models have it out of here by 11, 12 o'clock tomorrow for the most part.
Yeah, that's the very good part, is that by tomorrow afternoon, it's come and gone and we don't really have to worry about it anymore. Thankfully, it should be moving on out of our area. I think that we have a question. We're going to be getting into that, actually. Are we expecting tornadic weather here in Rankin County, or really across much of central Mississippi? I'm going to be honest with you. If we're forecasting this correctly and it's going to ride up along I-55, areas east of I-55 are going to have that high tornadic risk with the association of a lot of these storms rolling in from, I think it has to do with the friction of the ground with the association of the way that the storm's just turning. So it causes quick spin up tornadoes pretty easily on the eastern side of most hurricanes, most tropical storms. So if you live east of I-55, it's safe to say that you have at least a risk for that tornadic activity. Areas to the west of I-55, going to see that slower end risk or lower end risk where you don't have to worry about tornadoes as much, but you still have to worry about heavy rain, strong winds still, regardless of where you are.
Yeah, so if it does ride up along I-55, then yes, in Rankin County, you would have a low end risk to see some of that tornadic activity. Very briefly, we're not expecting long track tornadoes from this, but a quick spin up that has, winds that are stronger than the gusts the rest of us are seeing is certainly possible. And then this does have a little bit more rain moving through Thursday night. Of course, the worst of the weather would be over. It would still be windy at that time, but generally, a lot of us are going to see drier weather by Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, you can see already the tropical alerts are no joke. Hurricane warnings have been issued for much of coastal Louisiana, and watch is issued for much of the areas leading up into that. But tropical storm warnings are in effect for much of southern Mississippi. That does include a lot of our viewing area and leading up to almost areas along I-20. It's mainly staying to the south right now with tropical storm watches just south of central Mississippi. So it is very important that you do take these serious. And we're talking about, I believe the tropical storm warning means that there are sustained winds of at least 39 miles per hour. So that's still no joke. And winds that speed constant can cause a lot of damage.
Yeah, and I do want to point out too, it doesn't show up on here because it's just a special weather statement, but Rankin County, Hinds County, as you go further to the west, there are some of those tropical weather statements just indicating as that storm continues to move along that I-20 corridor, there is still a potential for those winds to be sustained up to 40 miles an hour. But this is what things could look like for us as far as wind is concerned and timing of the gustier winds. It's already going to be breezy through the early part of the day, but 5-6 o'clock, again, when it starts to potentially move into those southern counties, your winds start to gust upwards of 30 miles an hour. And that's where you could see those sustained winds of 35, 40 miles an hour for a period of time with embedded gusts that are stronger than that moving through the area. Gusts up to 60 miles an hour will be possible for us. And you can see the eye wall of the storm in this model just went right up along I-55. Now, that's just the model we're using. That's not to say that's exactly what will happen.
Yeah, it is something that you should take with just a grain of salt, but I believe that most of us here are in agreement that it is more than likely going to go either up that I-55 corridor or just maybe a little bit to the east of it. A lot of the models had it trending a whole lot more east, and now they kind of backtracked it just a little bit. So I think that it's safe to say that we're somewhere in our viewing area is going to have that eye wall pass over us. So that's something that will be something to watch out for. And honestly, it will lead to some cool events to where you might be having those really gusty winds and then it just dies instantly, where you have almost no winds at all. It just becomes a light breeze whenever you are in that eye wall, if you do happen to pass through that, or if it happens to pass through you.
Yeah, and that's when we would urge you to continue tracking the weather, because it will come back.
Yes.
If you're in the eye wall, you're going to get kind of smacked again with those gusty winds and that heavy rain on the backside of it. So if you do find yourself in that scenario, don't go outside and look around.
Oh, that's nice. No,
it is expected. Well, that could be, into Thursday afternoon. So yeah, don't go outside and look around. Thanks. But this still has, of course, breezy conditions through tomorrow afternoon. Even when the rain stops, there will be wind on the backside of this system all the way through Friday. Windy, gusty winds up to 20, 25 miles an hour.
Yeah, and there is still that severe threat that we were talking about earlier, where you do have that isolated threat for a quick spin up tornado. It's mainly going to be for areas east of I-55 and south and along I-20. So it is important that you do have multiple ways of staying updated. We're going to be babysitting the radar all night long. There are some of us, mainly down near Tylertown, who might be in that slight risk, but that stays mainly into the Mississippi Gulf Coast, back into just the Gulf Coast in general. That's where we usually see the highest chance to see quick spin up tornadoes associated with the hurricanes or with the hurricanes. So that's going to be something that we will be tracking throughout the night tonight. It's going to be an overnight issue again. So please make sure you have your ringer on. Make sure you have alerts turned up. You can download our free WLBT First Alert weather app, and we'll be able to send you out updates through that as well throughout the whole night.
Yeah, and if you're watching on a browser right now, that QR code that you see on the screen right there is for you to download our First Alert Weather app, and it's free. So it's free information directly from us that we send out to you. Our forecast rainfall totals, I think I saw a question about that. What are we going to get out of it? Somewhere between 3 and 6 inches, with it expected to move kind of up that I-55 corridor. If you find yourself west of I-55, your totals are going to be a little lower, somewhere like 2 to 3 inches versus the 5 or 6 inches that we'll see on the other side of that storm.
So I'm reading this question that was just asked. I don't think it's fair to compare storms ever, and I don't think it will be similar to Katrina in any way. There are so many different things to look at whenever we're talking about individual storms. No one storm is like the other, and I can promise you, we're not expecting widespread damages and widespread outages like we saw back then. So I don't think that you have to be concerned that it's going to be a storm like that. That's a historical event that you don't see often, and this is just, I don't want to say a normal hurricane. Can you add on to that? I don't want to say just a normal hurricane, but I'm not expecting it to be widespread damages and cause widespread outages and issues like Katrina did.
I think it's fair to say we don't like to compare storms. So just for this event, assume you'll see heavy rain, you'll see gusty winds, and, we will see some power outages, but they may not be, as long-lived. Potentially, I know Entergy sent out a message yesterday. They were preparing, they're gathering crews. Usually you see crews from other states come in and help to fix those outages in that event. So, even if you lose power, I wouldn't be too worried about being without power for an extended period of time. Hopefully, they have the infrastructure ready to go. They've got the materials ready to go, because we knew that this was going to come through here. It's always been in the forecast, not always, but since it's formed and we've had a track for it, that it's going to come right here to Central Mississippi. So it's not a surprise.
Yeah, it is not going to be surprised by any means. So you don't have to worry about it being I just saw a question about being a hurricane over Central Mississippi. It is more than likely going to deteriorate as it goes on land. We're going to be talking about tropical storm, force winds, and tropical storm conditions, which still cause a lot of issues. A lot of heavy rain and strong winds still going to be associated with that. Just because it's not called a hurricane anymore doesn't mean the hurricane winds just go away. We're still going to be talking about very, very gusty conditions, and a flash flood watch still in effect for much of Central Mississippi. This is mainly for areas that are projected to be into much of the storm. So areas east of I-55 and areas south of I-20, because that's where we're going to be seeing the brunt of the storm system.
And I want to answer, there's 2 questions here. I see the cone has been adjusted. Are the impacts still the same for Hinds County? Yes, they are. The tornado is still more likely south and east of Jackson. Yes, they are. That doesn't mean that you don't have any risk. And it certainly there's still a risk of gusty winds that could also be as damaging in Jackson, in the Jackson area. And a second story, what category is it? It's a category 1 right now, but a high end. So it could very easily reach that category 2 status before it makes landfall later on today.
Yeah, and the timing is still up in the air on that. A lot of the models are not in agreement on the timing. But regardless of where you are, I was about to go into the current conditions.
Sorry, I just realized I put this graphic up and we didn't say anything about it. I mean, I guess there's not much to say, but it's.
I said that there's a flash flood watch for areas southern along I-20.
Maybe I was reading. I can't read and listen.
No, that's okay.
I can't talk and listen
It's
either.
okay. It's been a long morning for us. We're going to have a long day. Another thing I want to point out is we're going to have a meteorologist on staff at all times for the next 24 hours. In reality, everyone is going to be up here. We're all going to be keeping you updated throughout the day today, because we're taking this very serious, as we could be seeing massive impacts across much of Central Mississippi, not just areas here in the metro, but we're talking about areas to the south of I-20, to the north of I-20. Every single one of us are going to be seeing some type of wind, some type of rainfall from the storm. So it doesn't matter where you live, where we keep seeing certain locations. It doesn't matter where you are. You're going to be seeing impacts from this system. So you need to be taking this serious throughout the day today.
Yeah, likely at least 2 inches of rain anywhere. Of course, much higher totals are expected in many places up to the 6-inch mark. And then as far as the winds are concerned, at least 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts. some of you will see gusts up to 60 miles an hour is really just what you can expect anywhere in central Mississippi. Assume the worst. There's a question here. When will the winds start to get strong in southwest Mississippi? Earlier in the forecast. So at southwest Mississippi, you could start to see those really strong wind gusts by 5-6 o'clock this evening, maybe as early as 4 o'clock. You could see them gust upwards of 30 miles an hour. And then you'll see that for a few hours as it tracks north through the overnight. So you guys are going to be done with it, of course, much earlier than areas further to the north.
But with that, you also get the real brunt of
you'll get the stronger part
of the system that will be moving into central Mississippi is going to be into the southernmost viewing area for us. So it's you might be done earlier, but you're also going to be dealing with in reality the worst of what we're expecting for our area. So you really need to be keeping a close eye on everything throughout the night tonight. And I wanted to ask or bring up a question on if anyone has any school closings like that, just in general. You can report them to us. We need to get that information out to the masses as well. So we want to make sure that everyone knows, hey, don't take your kid to school at this point of time. Like if the power is out throughout the night tonight and you get a Facebook message, or if you get a call from the district saying, hey, we're not having school, we would love to hear about that as well, to make sure we can communicate that to other people throughout the night tonight and into the day tomorrow, that, hey, schools might be closed, or hey, we might be doing early dismissal. I know a couple of counties further to the south might be doing early dismissals throughout the day today, just in preparation. So if you have any of that information, I'm never going to say, please don't send it to us. We would love to hear it. Even if we already have it, we would love to hear from you, and love to hear if you do have those reports in for us.
Yeah, somebody's saying Simpson County is out tomorrow, and then will Mendenhall, Mississippi be affected? Pretty much everyone in Mississippi as a whole will be affected by this system in some way. As it gets further to North Mississippi, the rainfall totals will be maybe slightly lower, and the gusty winds won't be as effective, or they won't affect you as much. But everyone in Mississippi will be impacted by the storm in some way. There was also a question about New Orleans and the Mississippi coast being on the east side of it. Most likely that is the track that is expected. So New Orleans would be on the east side. The Mississippi coast will be on the east side of that storm. And that's where the greater potential for that tornadic activity exists, actually, is in the south part of Mississippi, kind of more into the Pine Belt region as well. So we'll be tracking that closely. Of course, some of that is out of our DMA. But like Chase said, we will be here for the next 24 hours. There will never be an empty hour without a meteorologist. And starting at 2 o'clock today, every hour on the hour, we're going to be doing live updates with the newest information for you on Channel 3.
Yeah, and all these, thank you so much for sending in all these school closings, because now we're getting reports of a lot of these schools further to the south not having school already tomorrow, canceling and doing early dismissal today. So thank you so much for sending those in. I really appreciate it, because I'm sure a lot of other people really appreciate all that information. So I think that we'll just keep getting those in throughout the day today, and just make sure you keep communicating with your neighbors, with your friends, with your family. And we'll keep watching out for everything as well.
And I'll let Chase get into the current conditions for you now.
I was about to say that. You took this away from me.
I would never want to do that.
A couple of you are probably seeing some type of rainfall, especially to the south of I-20 right now. But a lot of us just seeing the muggy conditions and a lot of heavy cloud cover settling in. Those outer bands starting to move into the area. Temperatures not really changing too much. Still in the low to mid 70s. And some rainfall might be the cause of that, as well as the fact that a low pressure system is going to be moving over us, which will keep us fairly cool and cool-ish.
Yeah, cool-ish.
Yeah, cool-ish. You're not going to be outside to enjoy it, I promise you.
Yeah.
You will be inside in your safe place throughout the night tonight, whenever it is moving over our area. But again, gusty winds expected, more rainfall expected. Right now, we're not expecting temperatures to really change all that much. Mid to upper 70s expected for highs today. So that's really what you should be expecting for the day today.
Yeah. So you've still got a few hours to kind of tie stuff down, to make a plan if you need to go somewhere else. If you don't feel like your home is going to be a sturdy enough structure for the winds that we're expecting to see from this system, Lots of counties have their shelters open. Again, call a friend, call a family member. You have a few hours to get all of this done. And if you live in the metro area, you've got until overnight tonight. But our time frame for our first alert weather day is going to be from 6, 7 o'clock. Maybe we'll say 5 o'clock, just in the event that it moves a little faster, from 5 this evening in very southern counties till 10 tomorrow morning in our very northern counties. And everyone expecting to see very similar impacts: heavy rain, strong winds. Meteorologist Ashley Civic is commenting too, and this is something we said earlier in response to a question. If you're in a mobile home or in a trailer, or if you're in what am I looking for? An RV, a camper. That's the word I was looking for, camper. Definitely, we do suggest that you go to a shelter, because those winds are going to be strong enough to knock it over. And that's where we see the injuries that people can experience is if they're in a mobile home, and it gets blown over.
Yeah, and I want to bring this up again. We talked about it earlier, or really just poked at it. A tropical weather statement was just reissued for the metro region. That basically means that tropical storm watches and warnings are issued around us, and we are going to be seeing impacts from a tropical storm. Maybe just not at the exact parameters that they really look at, but we're still going to be expecting that. And it's gave a lot of information. It's moving. The storm's moving northeast at 10 miles per hour, so actually it's slowed down a bit, which is why we're expecting it to move in later on this afternoon, and still has winds of 90 miles an hour. So still seeing it as a Category 1 storm high end, and it is exactly 430 miles south-southwest of the Jackson Metro. So still a bit of a ways away, thankfully. We have some time. Like Elise was saying, if you need to get out and do anything, do it now. Do not wait until later on this afternoon or evening to do any last-minute errands or do any last-minute preparations. Get it done now if you can. We preached on it yesterday to do it last night, and if you're like, oh, I'll wait till tomorrow, well, tomorrow's come, and it's now. You need to get it done now. No more waiting around.
Yeah, so stay safe and stay tuned. We'll continue again to bring you any information that is new that you need. We'll continue to reiterate the same information too, in case somebody is just tuning in to get it. So make sure you're ready for the severe weather going through the overnight hours, and Dave and Ashley will be here at 2:30. We will still be here bringing you updates every hour. There are updates on the First Alert Weather app, all that good stuff.
Yeah, and please be safe and make sure you have a great rest of your day. And as always, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. I guarantee you we will not hesitate to answer. I've been answering Facebook questions all morning long. It's been fun, actually. I enjoy hearing from y'all. And please make sure you continue to be safe and get all your prep done. And if you have any questions, just reach out to us and have a great rest of your day.